Hello and welcome to Nigeria, the road to 2019, a series of programs where Arise News places the audience and the choice at the heart of our coverage of the upcoming presidential elections. I'm Charles Enyagulu. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, all the news, comment and analysis that provide unrivaled insight into Nigeria 2019, including the main opposition candidate in next month's presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, says he doubts the poll will be free or fair. He's appealed to the international community to help ensure that the ballot is credible. So why is he so worried? We'll speak to one of Mr. Atiku's top strategists. And later, as President Buhari hits the airwaves once again and warns that no corrupt person will go free, his Attorney General orders the freezing of the accounts of the embattled Chief Justice of Nigeria, pending the determination of the case against him. Just how much is the fight against corruption being politicized? We'll hear from the Buhari Media Organization. Now, with just over a month until the presidential elections, the main opposition candidate, Atiku Abubakar, says he has grave doubts about the credibility of the polls. As most Nigerians know, Mr. Abubakar was, of course, this country's vice president from 1999 to 2007, and is considered to be the biggest threat to the incumbent Muhammadu Buhari's re-election bid. Speaking in a BBC interview, the presidential candidate for the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, said he had not seen any evidence that the government is willing to offer a free, fair and credible electoral process. Mr. Abubakar accused the government and the ruling APC party of deploying members of the security forces to harass and threaten voters from the opposition in recent by-elections. He appealed to the international community to help ensure that the poll is credible. So, is this just posturing before the elections, or does he have a point? Well, let's speak now to one of the opposition PDP's top strategists. He's the former Director General of the National Orientation Agency and currently part of the Atiku presidential campaign, Mike Omeri. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you.
Why does Mr. Atiku believe that the election will not be free and fair?
Well, you see, an election happens in the life of a nation once in a presumed time, 4 years for Nigeria. And it is expected that within these 4 years, whatever is required for the electoral body, electoral management agency, to put in place for the conduct of a peaceful, transparent and credible election would have been concluded. You could have test run all your systems, test run all your facilities and all new additions to the process, because we expect to see improvements at all points. Now, based on what happened in 2015, we also do expect that a number of changes and improvements will come, because that is the yearning, that is the aspiration of Nigerians. Few things agitate the minds of some voters and some of us. When you begin to see the delayed response to certain key aspects of the arrangement towards an election. For instance, when the other political parties sought to meet with INEC so they can agree on a number of things, this meeting is
You mean the guidelines?
Yes,
and so on,
exactly,
right.
the guidelines. And
yes.
This is provided for. It's not. They are not calling for what is not known.
Yeah, but INEC did meet with many of
they
them.
needed subsequent meetings, which didn't hold. And you know the kind of protest. We don't need that. We don't need to excite the populace. We don't need all of those. Dialogue and conversation within national issues, chaperoned by national institutions, are welcome development. They're good additions. I mean, they are good avenues for input into a process that will be agreeable to everyone. So if the parties, 61 of them, would request for a meeting to sort out a few areas, it should be, he should be available for that. And of course, there are other indices that you would see suggestive of maybe an attempt, even if the government does not intend to tamper with the process or influence INEC, but because of the timing, like the Chief Justice's issue and some other issues around the electoral processes and even the police involvement.
Right.
Although we have seen that there are changes now, we have seen a responsible officer, I know him very well.
That's the new Inspector General of Police, right?
Smart,
so you're happy with that?
Well, at least there is a change.
Right.
And from the comments and steps he has taken so far, we believe that he will be on the side of the Nigerian people. He shouldn't be on the side of the PDP, he shouldn't be on the side of the APC, or any political party for that matter. Let him be the policeman that is defined in the laws of Nigeria. So if we have that, and we begin to see, people engagement with the process in a manner that is transparent and open, people will be confident.
Yes, but the problem, of course, is that with the Independent National Electoral Commission, for instance, there's a limit to what they can allow in terms of the input, or even perhaps it could be interpreted as an attempt to influence what the Independent National Electoral, the same thing you're accusing the incumbent government of doing. These 60, because we had one of their representatives sitting here, I mean, they wanted to almost micromanage what INEC is doing, and there's a limit to what they can allow, just like they also should not allow the influence coming in from the ruling party or the government.
You see, one of the issues that the other parties wanted or want and have been agitating for is that, at the end of accreditation, announce the total number of accredited persons and then go ahead and vote. That way, you are blocking the chances of not just PDP, it could be PDP that will rig,
right,
but APC will benefit from it, both PDP will benefit from it. I don't see the harm in it. We have talked about conducting the election on election day. I mean, election day now, management of time, so we can finish everything in good time. So it's good to accredit and vote. But if we had a proper electronic process that can enhance accreditation and voting, that is tamper-proof, you can do that. But when we don't have,
yes,
and the possibility of resorting to incidence form and all of those things are still there, you cannot be too sure that if you do not have the total number of accredited voters at the time of accreditation,
yes,
you will end up with the same figure at the end of it. You cannot vote, of course, where you are not popular. So where we are popular, we don't want to cheat APC or any other party, and we don't want APC or any other party to cheat the PDP.
So that seems to make a lot of sense. What is the state of play now? Because I know that INEC said that they had a meeting with those political parties, an initial meeting. Subsequently, those parties wanted another meeting. I'm not sure that took place. And INEC brought out the improved guidelines,
yes,
the revised guidelines. What is the state of play
well,
there?
there's still an attempt to reach INEC to talk so we can come to an amicable understanding. And I'm sure it will happen.
So you think they can still go ahead and modify what they've already
put out? It's possible. Elections is about 3-4 weeks from now.
Right. Now, there's another big event that's coming up this weekend that is supposed to be the presidential debate. Is that still taking place from your point of view?
Well, we are not the organizers.
Right.
So we're looking forward to it. If it's going to take place, we will be there. If it's not taking place, we have not had any communication to the effect that it wouldn't take place.
But as far as you're concerned, that is still, I mean, your candidate is going to turn up.
We are prepared.
Right.
The party is prepared. Everyone is prepared.
And your candidate, Atiku Abubakar, has confirmed his attendance?
If the election, he has. He's willing to be there. So long as the event will take place.
Right, because obviously that's a big event. I mean, it's supposed to be taking place on Saturday.
Well, Charles, our candidate and everyone within the PDP is not me there shy. We need to communicate to the Nigerian people on how we want to achieve making this country work again. We want to explain to as many Nigerians what we think should be the new direction, the new thinking in governance and the provision of service. We are not going to shy away from that. At any opportunity, we will do that because we want to work with the people. We want to engage the people. We want to deliver on something that would outlive the administration, that would outlive any other party coming after us.
You're a campaign strategist for the PDP and by extension for Atiku Abubakar. How are you getting around issues such as the fact that you were in power for 16 years and were then removed from power, and now 3 years later you want to be given another chance when the government in power has only had 3.5 years, well, going on 4 years now?
It is not as if in the last 16 years that is being referenced to, we've not had challenges from other candidates wishing to take power from us. We have provided services to this country within our, the provisions of our manifesto of the party. And I want to say we have done creditably well in some areas. Of course, as a government where manned by human beings, you will not fail to have some, some failures here and there. But it is not to the extent that will make our party really bad and unable to come up in 3 years of an experiment with another party. If we were satisfied, we wouldn't be agitating to come back.
Well, obviously you would agitate to come back. I mean, the whole point of being in existence as a political party is to have power.
Well, we would be reasonable about it. We would be more reasonable about it. We wouldn't go about making it look like this government has not performed when it is performing, and the people we are talking to are seeing glaring evidence of performance.
Yeah, but part of the issue that I have is that, I mean, every single problem that you're raising with this government seems to have germinated at the time that you were in office. I mean, you were there for 16 years.
Yes, we also had solutions.
Sorry?
We also had solutions.
Yeah, no, of course.
That is to the benefit of this government today.
There's no question about that. I mean, the PDP did some good things in this country. But what I'm talking about is the things that you're challenging the government on, which you yourself seemed to have not been able to sort out. I mean, well, I'll give you an example, talking about credible elections. I mean, virtually every election, apart from the one in 2015, between 1999 and 2015, up to 2011, international observers that came to this country had a lot of issues with them. And in fact, the election where Umaru Musa Yar'Adua came in, I mean, it was clear to everybody, including international observers, including the president himself, who admitted that the election was essentially, was not free and fair, it wasn't properly conducted, it was essentially a rigged affair. I mean, and now you turn around and point fingers and you keep raising alarm. What you could not morally do, you're expecting someone else to do for you.
Well, I'm not moralizing immorality here.
Right.
But with due respect, and I'm happy you mentioned that the late General Yar'Adua admitted, we all admitted as a party, that we didn't need to continue to deliver less than credible elections.
Yeah, but you only admitted that.
Excuse me.
You only admitted that after you had won.
Yeah, but
ostensibly won.
But then the law
and had power, and then you said, "Oh well, we'll look at the system."
The law did not say so, and even if it did, well, we have noticed and admitted that there were flaws, and it was the policy of government at that time and the party to ensure a better arranged and more credible process, and that was what you saw. That led up to 2015. So we expect a build-up to that, not to go back to where we are coming from. Yes, the first election, the very first election in 1999, we won it fair and square. The ones that were complained about, which we admitted,
well,
we went
was
ahead
an election
to collect
run
it.
by the military, essentially, and they gave it to whoever they wanted to give it.
Well, whatever it was an election. I didn't hear that it was given to whoever they wanted to give, because we voted, Nigerians voted. So was one process on its own. But the ones that we were criticized, we didn't wait for somebody to criticize us. We also admitted that in this one, there were some flaws, and we must correct it, and we took steps to correct it, and correct it we did. So what we expect is a more enhanced, more improved process, not to stick to where we are coming from.
Now let's talk a little bit about your agency that you used to head, the National Orientation Agency. Just tell us what it was supposed to do.
Well, the National Orientation Agency has a very broad mandate. It can interface with all agencies and arms of government, all of them without exception. And it has a lot of challenges and constraints. It's a big agency that can deliver on the mandates, because chiefly of the mandate is to communicate government policies, programs, and activities. And further down, you would see over 15 or 20 other functions of the agency, which would include civic education, behavioral modification, orientation, and so forth and so on. So it is there, struggling to discharge this responsibility, but it's still operating within the limits of resources available to it, and it cannot be so successful in doing it. And if I have my way, believe me, today, I will upgrade that agency to the status of a ministry, because it has capacity to discharge a number of functions within the structure of governance in this country.
But you said its sole function is to, or its main function.
One of...
Right, it is to put out, essentially enlighten the public on what the government is doing.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's right. It has, excuse me, it is like a civil society organization run by government, I would say, because it reports government to the people and takes the people to the government. And in doing so, most of our reports, we give weekly reports to government, the agency, I mean, they give weekly reports when I was there to government, and monthly reports. And what they do is to give exactly what they have taken from society. The price of foodstuff, the demands of the citizens, and so forth and so on. We give it to government, and we take from government to the people. So this function is meant to make government be on its toes and be aware of what is happening, what the people are saying. It is one of the most credible processes in that agency.
Right.
Because the results we get from the public are not adulterated, and they come from all the 774 local government areas of the country where the NOA
and exists. You were there during the last, sort of up to the last election?
Yes, I was.
Right. And what did you tell the government of Goodluck Jonathan was the sense that you were getting from the people of Nigeria about their perceptions of the government?
We told government, when the issues of corruption were being played up, we mentioned to government they need to do a few things to address them. The prices of food items, the price of petroleum products, we engage in a number of those advocates that we're getting from the public.
Right. And what level of communication were you at with the government? I mean, did you communicate directly to the president, or did you go through his
the
deputies
agency
and minions?
No. The agency communicates directly with the president, the vice president, minister of information, heads of security agencies, governors. They all get our situation reports.
And was part of your remit to follow up on what you said to them and say, well, we told you that we're warning you. I mean, we're coming towards the election. In other words, I'm trying to see what role you played in defining what the government ought to do if it wanted to be re-elected in the last election, and to what extent that might be brought to bear, your experience in helping Mr. Atiku now that he's in.
Well,
in with a chance.
The agency is in 774 local government areas, so it's easy from the daily reports we get, because I was connected directly with all the 774 local government areas. I got information on a daily basis across the country. That is helpful for me. It gives me broader knowledge, and by the time you go on tours and visits, you meet the people, you see the issues. Apart from that, I remember when we embarked on the campaign, tree planting campaign, for instance, and the agency was involved, did a lot of sensitization in the 11 frontline states. Somehow, we again monitored it to see the performance, because we needed to do that. It was an international issue. Some other countries were involved. So we got the report that some of the things promised, like borehole, even the seedlings, and all of that weren't sufficiently supplied in some communities. And we're going ahead as if everything was being done. We reported directly to the president. And I remember this particular incident when one of the ministers then had to call me to say, why didn't you talk to me directly? You're going to the president. We are friends. We are this. I said, no, this is a matter of duty to Nigeria. It is not about friendship. And it may not be you may have given directives, but we needed to do our job. If I don't report, I'm failing, and I don't want to fail.
Right, but in the pecking order of priorities, I mean, planting trees compared to somebody saying, look, your officials are, rapaciously stealing from local governments and states and all that sort of thing across the country. I'm trying to see where the limits of that agency sort of came in as a result of you being essentially an appointee of the government.
We gave the reports that we needed to give. At a point, if you recall, I was deeply engaged with a number of activities, including communicating the Boko Haram issue and other security issues. So for me, believe me, Charles, and I'm telling you with all sense of responsibility,
I have no reason to doubt
at the end of it all, in some of the instances, I was scandalized when I had the people were taking money, to do certain things.
Right.
Outside the normal process, because I didn't take the money. And I know the sacrifice we made and all the members of my team made, because we were under, many of us were under threat. We received these text messages every day. We didn't celebrate them because we didn't want to encourage the terrorists at the time, but we just needed to take extra care of our personal safety.
So what you said you were getting text messages from
terrorists,
militants
and all those.
Is that militants in the Niger Delta?
No, the terrorists, the Boko Haram
in
people.
Northeast. Well, what was it? Tell us about that.
For instance, they tell you, look, we know where your children go to school. Of all of you there, most of their children are abroad. We will come for your children. Then you will know what it means. But
why would they be targeting you? I mean, what were you doing that was inimical to
I was
them?
The chief spokesman then for the information center, National Information Center, and we were communicating issues of security to Nigerians and sometimes responding to issues raised by the group.
Right.
So that exposed us to some of these things.
And were you concerned, because I mean, one of the big things the current government talks about is the fact that Boko Haram overwhelmed many local governments in Borno State, in the northeast. Were you communicating that to the government? I mean, was that raising concerns for you that essentially part of Nigeria's territorial integrity had been compromised?
As an agency, we reported. So don't forget, I have staff in all of these areas, and they communicate these things to me, so I will not keep it. I gave it to the relevant authorities, including the presidency, in our reports. Some of the areas being taken, and believe me, from the little knowledge I had of the situation at that time, we needed to rebuild the army within a war situation. We didn't have facilities. We had to go around the world to look for facilities. A lot of our countrymen had gone ahead out of this country to scandalize the government then, and that has stopped the transactions or any other thing that would have had to facilitate the acquisition of equipment. It was tough. So, in fact, if you recall, the government had to resort to black market to get equipment to face Boko Haram. Yes. We couldn't get from the U.S. I was in the U.S. Institute of Peace. I had discussions with a number of people then, and we found I was in Israel. I was even a discussant at the Homeland Security Conference in 2014, explained to everyone there the need to support the Nigerian army. They told us in Israel they cannot support us, they cannot give us, they had a third-party agreement with the US and some of these countries. So it was difficult.
But that must have shocked you, the level of the lack of credibility that the government of Nigeria, I mean, the most populous country in Africa, the biggest economy, all of that you had sunk to that level.
What shocked me was the level of involvement of Nigerians, opposition party men. They gave me their names, that were involved in canvassing against the sale of equipment to Nigerians, when we, at that point, needed to form a grand alliance and solidarity against a threat to the country. Yeah, that was what shocked me, not the other one.
Yeah,
that is a diplomatic
thing. The point is that if the government Because, I mean, even if you embarked on a campaign now, that you would find that the same response that you got in 2014, 2015 is not going to be the same response you get today.
I wouldn't even
So
do that.
you have to take some responsibility for the perception of your government as completely and totally corrupt.
I wouldn't even embark on that campaign. That is one. Two, some of the things I knew were not the truth that I was getting report from in those countries where we went. There were excess information that were not true.
Right. Well, what I want to ask you now is that, and there's a context to all of this, which is why I've been asking you these questions, because given your experience as the head of that National Orientation Agency, given these contacts you had abroad, this vast knowledge that you had, that you've said raised some alarm, that you had some concerns about. How are you bringing that to bear? Because it's the same PDP that was in office then that is trying to get back into office now. You're part of the strategy team for the PDP and by extension for Atiku Abubakar. Are you bringing those things to bear to say, well, look, these are the pitfalls that must be avoided, having been through what we went through in 2015?
Yes, even this present administration, I attempted to do that. It is about my country. It's not about political party. And because of it, I went back to the university to get a PhD on strategic communication and the management of terrorism. And I have a volume of work there. And I wish that this government would use it. And it's not, because it's not about this government. Some of the things happening today, I've predicted them in that book because of the experience I've had. But you see, we run a country where experience does not matter so long as you are not the one that appointed the person. As soon as it comes, they throw everybody away. And I'm not asking, I didn't want, you see, we can have a reservoir of knowledge and experience, call people to give you what they have. I don't have to work in the government for my views or my opinion to be heard. Compare mine with other, superior presentation. If mine, you must not use mine, but it will help you to also gauge those superior.
Right, but to what extent is the Atiku team using what you've got, the experience that you've got?
Well, the Atiku team, I have had conversations with him on this issue, and he seemed to be clear and understands what the issues really are in confronting terrorism. Up to date, let me tell you something, Charles. Before today, I knew that there were about 7 local government areas that were still experiencing some terror issues. But most of Nigerians didn't know. And this is not just my report. I did research and went up to that place. Okay? And apart from that, I have encountered international organizations, credible ones, not just humanitarian organizations, I mean international organizations that were working there. I don't want to mention their names because we didn't agree that I will do so. And we compared notes, and we knew that there were areas under occupation. Up to even the Baghdad incidents, we knew Boko Haram were living there. They were taxing the people, and most of those areas, they just stay there, do nothing. They greet the people, hey, good morning, they go fish.
So basically, does that throw into doubt the government's suggestion that they've recovered all those local
Well, what I mean is that there are still areas under severe threat.
Right.
And government needs to do something about it. And either as Nigeria alone or the...
right. And in those places, Boko Haram are still able to mobilize.
There is a place that you can't even go. There are places that you can't even go now, Charles. Kalabalge, for instance, how do you go there? And to go there, you have to pass through some other areas. You have to even go to Chad to come to Kalabalge right now.
Well, I have to say this is very, very enlightening and very interesting. I'm sorry we've run out of time, but I want to thank you very much indeed for coming in. And that is, of course, one of the PDP's top strategists, Mike Omeri, who was the former Director General of the National Orientation Agency. Thank you very much indeed.
It's always a delight.
Great pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're watching Nigeria, the road to 2019. Plenty more still ahead, including as President Buhari hits the airwaves once again and warns that no corrupt person will go free. The Attorney General orders the freezing of the accounts of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onogen, pending the determination of the case against him. As the opposition cries foul, we'll hear from a spokesman for the Buhari media organization. Stay with us.